Have you ever poured your entire heart into the people you love most, only to be pushed out of their most important moment? My name is Susan Harper. When my daughter sent me a text telling me not to come to her wedding, but to watch it through a live stream, I knew exactly what I had to do. But what I did next, nobody saw coming. Stick around, because this story will make you rethink love, self-respect, and the power of choosing yourself. I am Susan Harper, 55 years old, living in a quiet suburb just outside Seattle, Washington. Every morning, I drive to my office where I work as an office manager for an insurance company. It's not glamorous, not the kind of job you see in shiny Hollywood movies, but it's steady. It's kept me grounded, especially after I lost my husband 20 years ago. That was the day my world turned upside down. Back then, Claire, my daughter, was only 9 years old, and Ethan, my son, was just 7. Two little kids with big eyes and innocent dreams, suddenly left with only me. My husband passed away from a heart attack. No warning, no goodbye. Overnight, I became both mom and dad, wiping Claire's tears when she fell off her bike, staying up late to help Ethan with his math homework. I can still see those nights at the kitchen table, bills piled high like a mountain that never got smaller. I worked late shifts, canceled weekend plans, and tucked my paintbrushes big into the drawer. You see, I used to dream of being an artist, a small gallery in Seattle, where I could paint the Olympic mountains or the sunset over Puget Sound. But when my husband died, that dream faded away. Instead, I chose Claire and Ethan. I paid for their school supplies, made sure they had new clothes, and kept a warm roof over their heads. When Claire wanted ballet lessons, I found a way. When Ethan needed new basketball shoes, I picked up extra shifts. I don't regret it, but somewhere along the way, I left myself behind. Now Claire's 29, a bright, ambitious woman, about to marry James, a guy from a high society family. Ethan's 27, just starting his career, still calling me for advice or sometimes a little financial help. I haven't retired yet, it's not time. My job gives me independence, a reason to get up every morning. And deep down, I always thought, one day, I'd carve out time for myself. Recently, I sent $25,000 for Claire's wedding, a stunning venue in Napa Valley, flowers she's loved since college, and a photographer to capture her big day. I pictured myself there, in the ceremony hall, watching Claire walk down the aisle in her wedding dress, smiling at me. It was the moment I've been waiting for. After 20 years of sacrifice, I thought, finally, I'd see my daughter happy and know that everything I gave up was worth it. But then, a single text changed everything. It was a crisp Tuesday morning, my desk at the insurance office cluttered with papers, when my phone buzzed with a text from Claire. My 29-year-old daughter. I smiled, expecting a quick update about her wedding plans. For weeks, Wed talked about the Napa Valley venue had helped fund with $25,000 the peonies she'd adored since her college days, the photographer who'd capture her big day. I thought it might be about her dress or the seating chart, but when I opened the text, my heart sank. No mom, no warmth, just a cold line, Mom. The wedding's going to be small. James's family wants it intimate. Only close relatives. You can watch the live stream. Okay, links here. Then, like a punch to the gut, she added, LOL, as if banning her own mother from her wedding was a joke. My coffee went cold as I stared at the screen. 20 years of raising Claire and Ethan alone, since they were 9 and 7, flooded my mind. I'd sewn Claire's ballet costumes until my fingers ached. Stayed up late checking Ethan's math homework. Juggled bills to keep our home after their dad died. I pictured myself in that ceremony hall, watching Claire in her wedding dress, knowing every sacrifice was worth it. Now, I was just a Google Meet link. Worse, I'd learned something a week earlier that cut deeper. A friend of Claire's let slip that she'd told James' high society family I was too plain for their upscale wedding. Mom's not their style. Claire had said. Those words burned, a betrayal of the youth I'd given her. I'd sacrificed my dream of painting, my nights, my everything, and I was an embarrassment. The office noise faded. Something inside me cracked. Not my heart, but my patience. I typed back, okay, Claire, have a great day. 4 words, no emotion, no argument, but inside, a fire was kindling, and those words carried a weight heavier than any scream. That Tuesday morning, after Claire's text hit me like a freight train, I sat at my desk, the office buzzing around me. Her words, "You can watch the live stream." Okay, LOL, echoed in my head, along with her comment to Jameis' family that I was too plain for their fancy wedding. 20 years of raising Claire and Ethan alone, from when they were 9 and 7 sewing ballet costumes, checking math homework, scraping by after their dad's sudden death. All for this, I poured $25,000 into her Napa Valley wedding, dreaming of seeing her walk down the aisle. But now I was just a link on a screen. Something inside me shifted, not with tears or screams, but with a quiet, burning clarity. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to act. I left the office early, drove straight to First Federal Bank, just a few blocks from work. Maria, the branch manager who'd helped me set up college funds for Claire and Ethan years ago, greeted me with her usual warm smile. "Susan, good to see you. What's up?" I set my purse down, my voice steady as steel. "I need to cancel a wire transfer. The one for the Napa venue." Maria blinked, her pen pausing over her notepad. "The $50,000, that's a big one." "Susan, are you sure?" I nodded, unflinching. "I'm sure." She checked her screen, hesitating. "You're in luck. It hasn't processed yet. But may I ask why?" I met her eyes. "The circumstances have changed. No more explanation needed." I signed the forms, walked out, and felt a weight lift. Not just from my bank account, but from my soul. That $50,000 on top of the $25,000 already sent was meant for a wedding I wasn't welcome at. I would done paying for my own exclusion. By the time I got home, my phone was blowing up. 9 missed calls from Claire, 2 from Ethan. Claire's voicemail started soft but grew frantic. "Mom, please answer. We need to talk. This isn't funny." I didn't listen to the rest. I poured a glass of red wine, one I'd saved for a special occasion Claire had canceled on last Thanksgiving, and sat on my porch, the Seattle sunset painting the sky. The quiet was louder than her calls. Then, around 8 p.m., the doorbell rang. It was Ethan, 27, still in his work clothes, tie loose, looking like he'd run straight from his tech startup job. "Mom, why aren't you picking up?" "Claire's freaking out." I shut the door behind him, calm but firm. "Hello to you too, Ethan." He paced my living room, agitated. "Claire says you're not coming to the wedding now, that you're being difficult." I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. Difficult. For not attending a wedding I was uninvited from. Ethan shifted. Uncomfortable. "James's parents are footing most of the bill." "Mom, they're traditional. You know that." I raised an eyebrow. "Traditional? I already paid $25,000. I was about to send $50,000 more. That's not tradition. That's a blank check." Ethan froze. "Wait, you were sending another 50 grand? I sipped at my wine, eyes locked on his. "Was. Not anymore." His face paled. "Mom, they're counting on that. The venue, the catering. It's all falling apart." I set my glass down. "Not my problem anymore." "Ethan," his voice rose, desperate. "Of course it's your problem. She's your daughter." I stood, my voice low but cutting. "And I'm her mother, told to stay home and watch from a screen." The air grew heavy. Ethan ran a hand through his hair. "You always make everything about you." That was the moment something snapped. "Get out of my house," I said, soft but final. "What?" he stammered. "You heard me, Akushmathan. If given everything. My entire youth, raising you and Claire when you were just kids. I'm done being the villain in a story I wrote with love. He stood there, stunned, then turned and left. The door clicked shut, quieter than a slam, but it shook me to my core. For the first time, I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. The next evening, as I was heating leftovers, the doorbell rang again. This time, it was Claire. She stood on my porch, eyes red, her usual confidence gone. "Mom, you have to help me. The venue canceled because the payment didn't go through. We have 24 hours to pay, or we lose everything. Jame's parents are furious." I leaned against the doorframe, unmoved. "Claire, you chose their guest list over me. You wanted an intimate wedding, right? So why do you need my money?" She faltered, voice breaking. "Mom, I'm sorry. Okay, can you just send the money? We can talk about you coming after." I shook my head, my voice steady. "Love isn't a transaction. Claire Vachon, you don't get to barter my presence at your wedding." She stared, speechless. As I closed the door, the fire inside me burned brighter. I wasn't just saying no to Claire. I was saying yes to myself. The next evening, as I supped tea in my quiet Seattle kitchen, the doorbell rang. It was Lily, Claire's best friend since they were 9 years old, back when they'd giggle over cookies and sleepovers at our house. Lily's eyes were soft, apologetic. "Susan, I'm sorry to show up like this. Claire's a mess. She knows she messed up. Big time, Chictasso. The venue's gone. The florist bailed, and Jame's parents are threatening to cancel the whole wedding." I set 2 mugs on the counter, my face calm. "Did Claire send you to fix this, Lily?" She shook her head. "No, I just thought maybe there's something she could say to change your mind." I handed her a mug, my voice steady. "Words are easy when you're desperate. Lily, real love doesn't wait until you're cut off to show up." She nodded, her eyes dropping to the tea. "I get it. Susan, I'm sorry. I thought that was the end of it." But later that night, my phone rang. Claire's name lit up the screen. I almost didn't answer. But something made me pick up. Her voice was shaky, raw. "Mom," I lied. "I didn't want you at the wedding because I was ashamed. You're a single mom, not like Jame's family with their fancy cars and big houses. I thought you'd embarrass me." Her words hit like a knife, sharper than her text, deeper than her LOL. 20 years of raising her from a 9-year-old girl, sewing her ballet costumes, cheering at her recitals, all while I gave up my dreams of painting, and she was ashamed. But instead of breaking, I felt clear, strong. I took a breath and said, "Claire, I love you. You and Ethan have been my everything. I loved you more than myself. Gave my entire youth to protect you, to lift you up. But you've made me see something. It's time for you to fly on your own wings. And it's time I lived for me." Claire was silent, stunned. I continued, softer but firm. "If you want me back in your life, come here. Look me in the eyes and tell me you value me for who I am, not what I can give." She didn't respond, and I hung up. That night, I pulled out a notebook and wrote a letter I'd never send. Standing before my bedroom mirror, I read it aloud. "Claire, I love you, but I can't keep sacrificing myself. One day, you'll understand." The words felt like closing a chapter. I tucked the letter away. Not for Claire, but for me, Claire. At 29 was still young, still learning, but I was done waiting for her to see my worth. I had seen it myself. Claire's wedding didn't happen in Napa Valley. No peonies, no glittering venue, no photographer, just a handful of people in James' parents' backyard. A last-minute scramble after the $50,000 payment fell through. I wasn't invited, and for the first time in 20 years, I didn't need to be. I spent my youth raising Claire and Ethan from ages 9 and 7 sewing ballet costumes, skipping sleep to pay bills after their dad died. I'd given everything. But Claire's text, her LOL, and her shame about my plain life changed me. I wasn't angry anymore. I was done. I started living for myself in Seattle. I joined a painting class at a community center near Lake Washington. My hands, stiff from years of office work, fumbled with the brushes at first, but every stroke felt like reclaiming a piece of the artist I'd buried when Claire was 9. I painted the Puget Sound, its waves catching the sunset, and for the first time, I felt like Susan. Not just mom, I made friends there. Women my age who shared stories of their own sacrifices over coffee after class. One of them, Linda, invited me to a book club, and soon, Friday nights meant wine and laughter, not waiting for calls that never came. I took a weekend trip to Portland, just because I wanted to. I wandered art galleries, ate at food trucks, and felt the freedom of choosing myself. At work, I gave my colleague Tom a painting, a clumsy but heartfelt sketch of the Olympic Mountains. He hung it in his office, grinning. "Susan, you've got talent," he said. I smiled, believing it a little. Claire sent an email weeks later, a long, tearful apology mixed with excuses about James' family's pressure. At 29, she was still young, still learning, but I didn't reply. Not out of anger, but clarity. I'd given my youth to her and Ethan. Now, they needed to find their own way. I archived the email and went back to my canvas. My life wasn't perfect, but it was mine. I learned a hard truth: you can't make someone value you, but you can value yourself. And that's exactly what I did. Love isn't about giving until you're empty. It's about knowing when to set boundaries, when to say, "I deserve to be seen." For 20 years, Susan Harper, gave everything to Claire and Ethan, raising them from ages 9 and 7 after their dad died. I sewed costumes, worked late nights, and buried my dream of painting to keep them safe. But when Claire, at 29, texted me to watch her wedding via livestream, laughing it off with an LOL, and admitted she was ashamed of my plain life, I learned a hard truth. You can't make someone value you, but you can value yourself. I canceled the $50,000 payment, not out of spite, but to reclaim my worth. I chose myself, and that choice set me free. Now, I paint in a Seattle studio, travel for me, laugh with friends who see me, not what I can give. Claire's still young, still learning, but I'm not waiting for her to catch up. This story isn't just mine. It's a reminder for anyone who's ever felt invisible. You don't have to burn yourself out to prove your love. You can light your own fire, and it's never too late to start. Here's what I believe Susan's journey shows us: we're worth more than the sacrifices we make. If you've ever been taken for granted, know this: you don't need to dim your light to keep others warm. What would you do in Susan's shoes? Would you cancel that payment, walk away, or fight for a seat at the table? Share your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear your story. If this moved you, hit that like button, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Let's start a conversation about choosing ourselves, because we all deserve to be seen.